We're going to talk about some basic uh, guidelines around how to build a deck, how to think about what to think about when you're building your deck. And I kind of boiled it down to kind of 4 points here. And then it's really making sure that you have minions that matter. Low cost cards, I think, are greater over high cost, especially currently in the meta. Removal is huge, and making sure that you're building synergy within your entire deck. So you're not just picking random minions because of their strong, making sure that they work together as a unit. So let's kind of just we'll start with neutral. Like I said, this is just general decks overall, and we'll go into craft mode. So craft mode here, so we can see every minion. I mean, there are tons of different varieties of decks you can go. I mean, you can go the Mechazord or whatever decks and build into that. But really make sure that you're picking minions that are, they're making an impact to the game. They're making your opponent question what they're going to do next, right? So, where a lot of people are huge fans of airdrop and rush cards, they can be nice, and they're nice to have, but the thing to me for really strong minions, at least, is minions that have 3 or more life points. Why do I go with that? It's because 3 life points will require a general to 2 turns to diminish that unit, and that's huge, right? Now there are some nice cards that have less than that, but then you're using them to either counter another minion or using them for quick damage. So again, keep that in mind when you're building your deck. This minion seems really strong, right? Gives his fellow minions +4 health. That can be really strong, and a 2-cost card. This is a great minion to get a minion on the board and potentially, remove a minion, which is also nice, right? You notice there are a lot of 1-cost minions. Being able to knock one out and play a minion is nice. It's 2 birds, 1 stone. Like I said, you just need to make sure that you're thinking about these things. Like I said, having a minion make your spells cost less could be incredibly strong if you have a spell-heavy deck. Throwing a minion that dispels an enemy space, or a space, not even just an enemy, but a space. If you want to knock out like a mana pool instead, like I said, could be really nice. Provoke. It's got more than 2 health, which is always nice. I love that ability. And provoke, preventing them from moving. Again, this minion's clearly designed to remove higher shielded enemies, which is fine. Just make sure that you're choosing a minion that will help get you towards your goal. Minions like the Skyrock Golem, Bloodshard Golem, unless you're building a Golem deck, you might not necessarily want them, right? They don't have any other cost. I mean, they're solid, have some solid stats, but again, having 3 health is much better than having a minion with 2 health. Having units that make your opponent question what they've just done. I see this one played a lot. This Lore Master, basically stealing an enemy spell if they just casted a strong one, can be really nice. And again, it's a low cost card. That's going to be my huge low cost card and removal, right? Again, if it's a low cost card, make sure that it has something that can work for you, right? Being able to summon additional versions of itself. You could Zerg a board very quickly. Maybe you have a buffing, a buff spell to go with it, buff them all up, getting in another one additionally. Zone controlling your board is also pretty important, and I almost always recommend having at least one of these guys in your deck, just to move a pesky minion away. It can be make or break a game potentially. Like I said, I'm trying to cover some of these. Some of these other cards, you can build decks around them, but not everyone's going to have them. Not everyone's going to have the material, so I'm not going to really touch too much base on them. Just be aware of them. But like I said, I mean, a minion that takes no damage from a general, right? It could be used, designed just to rush generals, just to attack them. Um, think about these things while you're building that deck. But again, now we're starting to get into much higher, you know, 4 cost becomes the breaking point for me. I'm going to call out a few minions that I really like, right, that I think are worthy of most decks. The Silhouette Tracer is one of those. This bad boy can get you out of so many jams. It's a nice 6 health, 2 cost, or I'm sorry, 4 cost, and can get you out of jams, and it's very nice. Like I said, I know it's a blue, but build one of these if you can for your deck. This is very nice. I see a ton of people use the Frostbone Naga, dealing 2 damage to everything around you, and having a 3 health, 4 cost. This could be a pretty strong card. I normally don't use it, but like I said, I see a lot of people lots of effective plays with that card. Again, these are just things I think about. As we start to move into these 5s, you've got to really make sure that this minion is worth it. You know, again, some of these have some really nice abilities, but again, they're a little more rare, right? Ooh, that's a cool animation. Let's see that again. Oh, I like that. Yeah, I mean, like, I see a lot of people use this card, but 5 mana is really strong, right? My mentality with these decks is really just playing as many cards as I can to get more cards back, especially when I'm using a spell-heavy deck. But again, you might be playing a minion-heavy deck where you want to just overwhelm the board. You're playing lots of very strong minions. Then you might consider with some of these higher cards. But again, don't just miss them from your deck, but be very careful and pick just a very select few of them to add in there. That way you have some late game potential, but they're not overwhelming your deck and you're not getting pressed early and squashed. Like I said, there are some really strong late game minions. In my perspective, anything above 6 or 7, it needs to win you the game in a huge way, right? It needs to swing the chances of winning huge in your favor. I mean, these are some pretty terrifying numbers you're seeing here, but again, sometimes it might be too late. Like I said, I mean, this is a really desperate provoke card, but again, those are kind of some general things about minions. I typically tend to stack my decks between, you know, with minions below 4 below mana, but again, it's up to you. Build to your style. Games seem to be very quick these days. I posted a couple videos of me winning in like 3 moves with Magmar. So, like I said, low cost cards, like, is it worth the high cost? Yes, great. Then make sure you only have a few of them. That's what I would recommend. But like I said, you know, that's the stuff with minions. Make sure that it's also impactful, right? You know, just these numbers aren't going to do a whole lot, especially if they have removal, which we've, you know, talked about as one of the things that you need in your deck. But cards that have abilities with them that make your opponent question what they were about to line up, right? Being a couple moves ahead of them. Now, you know, again, talked about synergy. If you're building a deck that's got a lot of, you know, ranged minions, great. Make sure you've got some provokes to balance that out to help protect them and let them keep their distance, right? Or maybe if you've got a lot of minions with high damage but low health, you might want to use, where's that guy? You know, the Horned Shaman here to be next to them and sacrifice him so that they can have lots more health and be more survivable. Again, just things to think about when you're building that deck.